Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us for Week 9 of Big Game Bound. I'm Jack Doles, and here's what we've got worked up for you. We'll check in with our NFL analyst, Jared Payton. He breaks down the Bears-Titans, also discusses the situation in New England. And we'll check in with our correspondents to preview the big games between the Bills and Seahawks and the Saints and Buccaneers. Brees, Brady, Part 2. We'll also hear from the Wizard of Odds, Kenny White. We'll start with the insights of Jared Payton. He joins us every week from Chicago. Jared, another tough loss for the Bears on Sundays. We saw the frustration of Allen Robinson. Is there some dissension among the ranks with Chicago right now?
I mean, there's a lot going on right now, JD, when you look at this Bears team. And I think, probably the offense is a little frustrating because they haven't found a way to be able to get things going. And, the big cause of that is Matt Nagy. He's got to figure out what he needs to do to be able to change up his offensive scheme so they can start putting up numbers, because the start of the season, even though it was rocky and rough, you look at the record, but now the offense is being asked to be able to put points on the board. And I think the defense, they've been holding up their end of the bargain. And so they're kind of carrying the weight right now. The Bears offense hasn't been able to not only put up points, they've been struggling on third downs. And so then next thing you know, that defense is back on the field again. So to be able to sustain drives for this offense, I think they got to do that. But yeah, I think a lot of guys inside that locker room are trying to figure out what's going on, with a lot of question marks that are over the head of that offense and the guy who's calling the offense.
All right, so the Bears have lost 2 straight. Their opponent this week, Tennessee. The Titans have lost 2 straight. How critical is this game for both of these teams?
This is huge for both teams. I think when you look at, for the Bears, I mean, you want to be able to stay atop of that NFC North, and you look where the Packers are and where this Bears team is, they can't afford to lose their third in a row. And I thought this little stretch of 3 games was going to be huge for them, that they needed to take 2 out of the 3. But now they need to get 1. And you're going up against a Titans team that is kind of struggled over the last 2 weeks, and they're looking for a win as well, and they want to stay atop of the AFC South. So this is going to be a battle for both teams. And I think it really comes down to, for the Bears, can they find a way to be able to slow down Derrick Henry, the king? Because King Henry, he's looking to eat when they're playing against the Bears, and this Bears defense definitely has to step up and be able to stop him. He's one of the keys to running that offense.
All right, so personally, how do you handle this game? Because your dad was Walter Payton, so you obviously grew up a Bears fan. You played for the Titans.
I'm going to tell you right now, when it comes down to it, Titans, they gave me an opportunity to play in the NFL, JD, but I'm going to tell you right now, there's just all Bears running through this blood right now. So when it comes down to it, the Bears got to get a win, and I'm always going to side with my hometown team, even though I still got a lot of Titans love.
All right, Patriots lost to the Bills. Cam Newton, critical fumble at the end of the game. Put your GM hat on here. He'll be a free agent at the end of the season. Can he still play in this league?
I mean, I have a lot of different thoughts and ideas about what Cam Newton can do. And I thought coming into the season, I thought this was going to be a perfect fit for him, in New England with Bill Belichick. And I think we saw him start off on a good note. But I think after, coming down with COVID-19, I think things changed. We saw a different Cam, and we haven't seen that same Cam from the beginning, the first 2 games of the season. And, a lot of it came with him not only just throwing the ball, but running the ball as well. And so that's kind of the balance that they have to have. And a lot of people, Jack, were talking about they didn't want to run him enough because of his injury history, but that's what was working. And we started to see that coaching staff saw it was working as well. Cam's got to get focused again. And that team in New England, they have a lot of issues with a lot of guys that opted out this year on the defensive side of the ball. And, offensively always have been challenged when you look at the wide receiver position. Cam's got to step up. I just don't know right now if this is going to be the year, but I still think he's got enough in him to be able to be one of those starting quarterbacks in the NFL.
Jarrett, Patriots are out of it now. Any chance Belichick starts thinking about the next draft and the wealth of quarterbacks that are in it? I mean, he doesn't tank, does he?
No, he's not trying to tank, JD, but I think he's been thinking about the quarterback position even before the season. I think you have to, when you look at, the key guys that are coming out in this draft, you got to look at what you can do to be able to kind of that position and how critical it is for every single franchise. And I think if you could find a way, if it keeps going the way that it's going for this Patriots team, and they can find a way to be able to get a guy like Justin Fields, man, you're looking at something that's crazy. Him and Belichick together with the smarts of Fields and the smarts of Belichick, that right there could be a nice little fit.
All right, we've seen what the Cowboys look like without Dak. Should Jerry Jones be getting this deal done before it gets even worse if they lose Dak Prescott to another team?
Well, I think there's still a lot of question marks, JD, when you look at Dak Prescott. And I think a lot of people, want him to come back healthy and get back to where he was before the injury. But yeah, you can see the difference between this Cowboys team without Dak Prescott. And they were still having issues with him when he was on the football field. I think a lot of it comes defensively for the Cowboys. They didn't do enough to be able to bolster that defense. And, offensively, he's the guy that kind of makes it run. And I look back and I think about what he's doing now, and you think about, what Dak was thinking. Man, there was a lot of money that they offered him. If you can go back in time, you would love to be able to take it. But I think for Dak right now, it's to get healthy. And I don't know if Jerry Jones wants to get that deal done while they're still trying to figure out that process of Dak can be able to come back 100%. To me, if he does come back 100%, you start seeing the progression of him going on the right track. I think you got to try to find a way to be able to get a deal done. He means a lot to that Cowboys organization.
One of the marquee matchups in Week 9, Seattle travels across the country to take on the Buffalo Bills. 1 o'clock on Fox. Josh Reed joins us. He's our Bills correspondent from Buffalo. Josh, was that blustery wind a sigh of relief on Sunday in Buffalo?
Well, the wind gust got up to about 40 miles per hour, but yeah, I think the sigh of relief may have been stronger from Bills Mafia. They've sat around for 2 decades and watched the Patriots just absolutely reign over this division. And finally, the Bills were able to knock them off of that pedestal, and it did not come easy. Of course, we saw the strip there by Justin Zimmer, and then Dean Marlowe with the recovery. So that was obviously a big play to kind of seal the deal and get the Bills the 3-point win.
Probably some free wings for Justin right now, anywhere he wants to go.
Yeah, absolutely. There is no doubt that play, when you look back at that game, all the momentum was on the Patriots side at that point, and they were headed into the end zone. If he doesn't reach around and knock that ball completely out of Cam Newton's hands, then we could be having a much different conversation today.
All right, Bills defense has been really good. Offense has struggled the last 4 games. Why haven't they been able to put up the points on the board the way they did in the first quarter of the season?
Yeah, what teams are doing now after the first 4 games when they started 4-0 and they were lighting up the scoreboard, we were having conversation about Josh Allen and the MVP race. Teams started playing 2 deep zones, so they're playing the safeties way back. Their big concern is, hey, don't let Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen beat them down the field, deep down the field, and that's what they were doing in the first 4 games. Defenses are making them drive the ball methodically down the field, 8-yard pass, 6-yard pass. They're basically saying, go ahead and see if you can run the ball against the opposing defenses. Now, they were able to do it against the Patriots, 190 yards on the ground. But prior to that, they were unable to do it. So, look, if they're able to consistently start running the ball, the defenses are going to have to respect that, and then the safeties are going to have to come a little bit close to the line of scrimmage, meaning Stephon Diggs will be able to get behind those safeties at some point. The other thing is John Brown has been banged up, and that's really important because he's kind of that Robin to the Batman of Stephon Diggs. When both of those guys were in the lineup the first 4 weeks of the season, the offense was humming along. John Brown got a little dinged up, actually missed 2 weeks ago, missed the game against the Jets, and has just been really ineffective dealing with a knee injury. So this Bills offense needs him to get healthy to get back on track.
Bills defense, let's talk about this one again. How do they handle Russell Wilson in this Seattle attack? This guy is definitely in the conversation for league MVP right now, right at the top of the list.
Yeah, there are 31 teams trying to figure out Russell Wilson, how to slow that team down. I mean, 1 week it's Lockett, and the next week it's DK Metcalf. I mean, he has got weapons galore on that side of the ball as well. But Russell Wilson, I mean, he's one of the few guys that I look at in the NFL, being lucky enough to go to these games and cover games. And I always think, who's the guy that, if I wasn't fortunate enough to be doing the job I'm doing, who are some of the guys that I'd pay my own money to buy a ticket and go see? And if there's somebody above Russell Wilson, it doesn't come to the top of my head right now. He is so fun to watch, and he just makes it look so easy. The Bills defense is going to have their hands full.
I know I'd pay to see Patrick Mahomes play if
100%.
I had to pay. Seattle is flying across 3 time zones here. Kickoff is at 1 o'clock. How big of an advantage is that for the Bills?
I think it's a small advantage. I mean, you can go back to just this past Sunday. Keep in mind the Rams came all the way across the West Coast to play the Dolphins, and the Dolphins knocked them off. Now, the Dolphins defense did most of that, but the Dolphins were able to upset the Rams. I think a lot of people thought the Rams, at least record-wise, they had a better record, and the Rams were a better team, but Miami proved otherwise. Is it an advantage? Maybe a little one, but I think this goes back to what we were previously talking about. When you have Russell Wilson, I don't know that it matters if the game is at 1 o'clock a.m. or 1 o'clock p.m. I mean, that guy is going to give you a good chance at winning. And the other thing is, Pete Carroll is a head coach that has seen it all, right? He is going to know how to prepare his team to be ready for a 1 o'clock kickoff on the East Coast.
Let's bring in Seahawks correspondent A.J. McCord. A.J., I know you just got off the Zoom press conference with Pete Carroll. How concerned is he with this Bills defense?
I don't think he's very concerned, and not because they're not a defense to be respected. After all, they allowed just 31 total points in the last 2 games. But this is a Seahawks team who, no matter what the opponent, they have not had a problem scoring at all this season. They've scored less than 30 times only once through their first 7 games. In the last 2 games, they've averaged more than 35 points a game. So when Russell Wilson is cooking in your offense, I think the opposing defense has to do more to match your offense, and you have to game plan for an opponent's defense.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine a Seattle-Kansas City Super Bowl right now, but we'll get to that later in the year. Seattle's really struggled to get pressure on opposing quarterbacks. They made the deal for Carlos Dunlap. Do they expect him to make a difference immediately?
I believe so. So Dunlap, because of COVID-19 protocols, could not, of course, play for them on Sunday. So he's going to be in the building. Pete Carroll said he's already been studying the material, so it shouldn't take him long to assimilate. In addition to that, they are expecting to get Jamal Adams back this week from injury. He's only played in 3 games for the Seahawks, but he was so disruptive for them in those 3 games that he played early on in September. So with the 2 of them added to the roster, potentially throwing in a little bit of Damon Harrison, a little bit of snacks in there as well, this defense could look a whole lot different on Sunday and much more like the defense Pete Carroll was expecting to have this season.
How much does Seattle need a complete shutdown game for 4 quarters?
I don't think they need a complete shutdown game, but what they do need to do is to continue to prioritize winning the turnover battle. Seattle is actually one of the best teams in the league as far as turnover differential. They're +7 in that category, and then they're tied for best in the NFL with 14 takeaways. And that has been one of the ways that while the defense has struggled in the pass rush, they have been able to force some takeaways. And on Sunday, Bobby Wagner in particular, who's been a leader on this defense for so many years, stepped up and said, I'm tired of talking. It is time for us to get to work and show what we are made of. He took it upon himself in the last week to make sure that the Seahawks defense is one that doesn't consistently get trashed by how bad they've been all season. So the defense needs to take a step forward. And if they win that turnover battle like they have in almost every game this season, then I expect them to not need to shut down the Bills offense entirely.
AJ, we're seeing things out of DK Metcalf that I just can't recall seeing, maybe from former Lion receiver Calvin Johnson. That full sprint and tackle of Budda Baker, though, it was amazing. He has completely dominated the 49ers on Sunday. A 2nd-round pick, number 64 overall in 2019. How big of a steal is DK Metcalf?
Oh, massive. But I think you cannot underestimate or underappreciate either how much this team has invested in DK. Not only has Pete Carroll believed in him from the beginning, but he and Russell Wilson spent countless hours together this offseason just working on their chemistry, their routes, their communication. Russ taught DK how to swim. So the amount of trust that these 2 guys have in each other is something that, again, you can't put a statistic behind it. You cannot quantify it, but it's showing up in those big moments where Russell Wilson is clearly trusting DK in those big moments.
No, he's a swim teacher, too. Russell had those 3 interceptions in that loss to the Cardinals, bounces back with another 4 TD performance on Sunday. Is he the front runner of the MVP, or do we have to wait for this Mahomes-Wilson battle to play out?
Well, the good thing is the MVP is not decided until the end of the season, and so you get an entire resume. Certainly that game against the Cardinals is one that Russell Wilson has admitted he would like those 3 plays back. But the thing about Wilson is he focuses and talks about so much how his neutral mentality keeps him grounded. He processes every single play. What's it going to take for us to win? If we're ahead, what do we got to do to stay ahead? If we're behind, what do we have to do to get ahead? And so that ability to process and stay neutral and stay grounded in the moment means that he's going to take this entire season and not let it be defined by that one game against the Cardinals where he made some decisions that he would like to be taken back. But certainly MVP is a race that he wants to win. He has said all year, this is year 9. I want to separate myself. I want to be among the greats. And if you look at the records that he's broken each and every week, he's among them. On Sunday, he became just the 3rd player in NFL history to have 250 or more touchdown passes in their first 9 seasons. The 2 that he's joined, Peyton Manning and Dan Marino. So the guy is putting himself in elite company and has continued to do it over this year 9. So I would be shocked if Russell Wilson did not get his first MVP vote this season. But looking forward to that race down the stretch.
Another key game in the NFC is the showdown in the South. The Saints and Buccaneers, Drew Brees versus Tom Brady, Part 2. Ed Daniels is our Saints correspondent, joins us from New Orleans. Ed, Michael Thomas played in 1 game this season, the opener. They just won 2 straight without Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, and yet the Saints just keep on winning. How do they make it work?
Well, what's also interesting, too, Jack, is this. You know, over the last 3 games, he's been very effective, but Alvin Kamara has not been in the end zone, even either receiving or rushing over the last 3 games. Yet the Saints continue to win. Well, I think the Saints' midseason MVP is Drew Brees. A lot of people are, for whatever reason, and I don't know why. I don't know why anyone who is lucid would want to see Drew Brees retire, but apparently some of those people are around. He's completed 75% of his passes over the last 4 games, a 4-game Saints winning streak. He's just been awesome. Now, I know there's some criticism. Well, he doesn't throw the deep ball. Well, the Saints are winning, and they're finding a way to win. They've won the last 4 games by a total of 15 points. They've made the plays when they need to. I think they're going to have to be a little better on Sunday night. But let's be clear. If the Saints win on Sunday night, they have basically what amounts to a 2-game lead over the Bucs with 7 to play. And for all of the things that have happened to the Saints, the fact that Michael Thomas has only caught 3 passes all year, and they're in that position to be able to do that Sunday night, I think speaks to the quality of what they're trying to do.
You touched on the people that want to see Drew Brees go. We're seeing what life is like for Bill Belichick without Tom Brady. Will the Saints be in better shape once Drew Brees retires, or should Saints fans enjoy this right now, this coach-quarterback partnership, while it lasts?
Well, for someone who has watched the New Orleans Saints since the beginning, 1967, I've seen a lot of bad quarterbacking over the years. It's gone anywhere from mediocre to bad to outright terrible. And to have a guy like this, who is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and you're interested in somehow him moving on, to me is unconscionable. And I know there's a lot of discussion about, well, Taysom Hill is going to be able to do it. Well, you know, I don't know that yet. To me, Taysom Hill is a guy who looks like he's in the best role he can be right now. Is he going to be able to drop back and make the quick decision and make the accurate throw and make the right decision that Drew Brees always seems to be able to do? Drew Brees is a tremendously talented player and incredibly accurate. And like I said, there won't be a quarterback like him for the next 50 years. Not in my lifetime, I won't see a guy like that. So for all the people who somehow don't think he can do it anymore, you know, sometimes I wonder if their TV is showing another game, frankly, instead of watching the Saints game.
All right, now you get Brees versus Brady Part 2. How much are you looking forward to watching these 2 future Hall of Famers at work against each other again?
Well, to me, the big thing about Sunday night is this. The Saints have allowed 19 touchdown passes over 7 games. Now, only one team in the league has allowed more. That's Atlanta with 20. That they played 8 games. So the Saints defense has been very good against the run, but they have not been very good against the pass. And as you know, the Bucs have a lot of options. They run the ball pretty well with Fournette and Ronald Jones. But you know what? They have very good receivers, and they're adding Antonio Brown. So I think this is a giant test for the Saints. And my guess is if the Saints want to win this game, I think it was 34-23 the first time. I think they're going to have to be in that 35-point range to be able to pull it off, because they've got to be able to hope to get some stops against Tampa, but I don't think they're going to be able to get a ton of stops against the Bucs, and I'm frankly concerned about their pass defense in this game.
Well, and you know, they did a nice job against Brady in the season opener, but he's really found that groove since then. Yet, does this defense have a shutdown performance in it, especially that secondary? Do they have one in, especially against a team like this?
No, they do not have a shutdown performance. Now, they can have a good performance, and if they have a good performance, if they have a reasonable performance, then I think they have a chance to win. And you made a good point about Brady. Look, I saw the first game, no fans in the stands, just a weird scenario when the Bucs played the Saints. But here's the one thing about the offseason. Tom Brady had no preseason and, you know, no preseason games to work with these guys. There was no offseason. Now, I know he had some workouts in Tampa with the players, but there was a lot of things that were missing as far as chemistry. And if you watch Brady over the last month or so, you can tell that he's really getting on the same page with all of those guys. And that's what happens after you play half a season. So, frankly, to me, I'm really concerned about it as a Saints watcher on Sunday night. To me, that is the key to the game. If they give up a lot of big plays in the passing game, they're not going to win. If they can somehow limit that, then I think they got a pretty good chance.
Let's bring in our Buccaneers correspondent and digital legend, JB Buno. JB, Brady versus Brees, what are you doing Sunday night?
Man, you know where I'm going to be, especially after all this election stuff that we're dealing with here in the country this week. Really ready to watch some football and really passing of the torch game potentially here, Jack. And we're talking about Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints here maybe being a thing of the past. Tom Brady and the Bucs, who knows, could be a thing of the future depending on how long, of course, we have Tom Brady here in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, he is getting up there in age a little bit. But early in the season, Gronk wasn't exactly the focus in the game plan. But the last few weeks, Brady has had his eye on him. How much more dangerous is this offense when Gronk is rolling?
Oh, it's a completely different offense. And you can see it from quarter to quarter. There are some quarters where you're going to see Tom Brady look Rob Gronkowski's way, and they just look completely different and more lethal as an offense. So it'll be very, very curious to see, especially with the inclusion of Antonio Brown and all the offensive weapons that they have, how much Rob Gronkowski is going to be part of the offense. As for the beginning of the year, very strange, Jack, right, that we weren't seeing Rob Gronkowski involved in the offense. And over the first 3-4 weeks of the season, it was a slow process, but that's probably attributed to him learning the playbook, getting back into football shape, getting back on the same page as Tom Brady. You have to remember, this is a tight end that hasn't played football in the National Football League for a couple of years, did that stint, of course, in the WWE. So Gronkowski is back, more Gronk spikes likely in the future for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I can tell you, Buc fans really excited to see Rob Gronkowski get involved in the offense, not just catching balls, but also blocking. As Rob said a few weeks ago, he said to the media, he said, hey, I was brought in here to block, baby. So that has really resonated with Bucs fans and the toughness behind this team right now. We're hoping to see more Gronk spikes here in the future.
Yeah, he's a fun guy to have on a team. JB, when we were in Miami at the Super Bowl on Radio Row, I think you were the only one talking about the Bucs as a Super Bowl contender in 2020. Now you can't count him out. Is it as simple as adding Brady? Is that why they're so improved?
Well, everyone's going to talk about Tom Brady, right? When you have these national televised games like Sunday Night Football coming up, Jack, and of course, the Monday night game that we just had against the Giants, Brady's going to be the focal point. You're going to see all the oohs and ahs surrounding Tom Brady. But really, it's this defense that has been blowing people's minds here in the Tampa Bay area, this defense that has really come together under defensive coordinator Todd Bowles. I mean, this is a defense that has produced, I'm getting out the notepad here, a league-leading 14 turnovers, a league-leading 11 interceptions. Really a ball-hawking defense here. Tom Brady will get all the front-page headlines, make no mistake about it. Rob Gronkowski and now Antonio Brown, add him to the mix. Of course, there's going to be a lot of headlines surrounding the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and what they're going to do to score in the end zone on the offensive side of the ball. But don't discredit the defense also finding the end zone, Pick sixes is something that this team takes pride in, ball hawking there in the secondary. So it's this defense, I think, that has really galvanized the Tampa Bay Buccaneers franchise. And it's really bittersweet here that we don't have more fans in the stands at Raymond James Stadium. The site here, of course, of the upcoming Super Bowl. Fans want to get behind this defense, roar for them on third down, and hopefully that'll be coming in the not too distant future. But really, it's the defense that has been getting a lot of attention here in the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah, and the most points they allowed was week 1 against New Orleans. Who has really stood out for you on that defense?
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned earlier that it's sort of a passing of the torch game in the NFC South, right? Is this now Tom Brady and the Buccaneers division, or is this still Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints division? But on defense, you really have to point to two guys, and it's the two recent draft picks that we've had here, starting with linebacker Devin White out of LSU, really made an impact last year as a rookie, but has really taken command of this Buccaneers defense here in his second year. He's all over the field. If you watch him play, you're going to see him laterally go all over the field. He's like that. Oh, he's all everywhere in a blur, and it's really fun to watch him play. But then the other guy is actually a rookie safety, Antoine Winfield Jr. out of Minnesota. This is somebody that Todd Bowles loves having in his defensive schemes. You can see Winfield play all over. You'll see him blitzing. You'll see him playing back in deep in coverage. He's been all over the field for us, Antoine Winfield Jr. has, and really brings a completely new dynamic look here to this defense. And that's why he's in consideration for Defensive Rookie of the Year out of the second round. So really exciting to see Winfield help bring the secondary together, especially considering the Buccaneers defense heading into the season, Jack, was really a major question mark. You knew that Jason Pierre-Paul and, of course, Ndamukong Suh and Devin White and the guys up front there were going to be really formidable up front, but it was the secondary that was the question mark. But Antoine Winfield Jr. has really helped bring that secondary together, and they're now a threat there on defense, not just to pick the ball off, but to run it back for a score.
Kenny White is the wizard of odds. He's an odds maker, sports market analyst. You can see him on CBS Sportsline, and he's also the author and publisher of Kenny White's College Football Power Ratings. You can get that in a PDF or a 3-hole binder. He predicts the final score of every college football game, basically tells you what the odds and the total should be for every game. And he joins us each week from Las Vegas. Kenny, thanks for joining us as always. We're at the midway point of the season. Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Derrick Henry. Who's the MVP? Who does Vegas like?
Well, right now, Jack, the leading candidate is Russell Wilson. He's a big favorite at -180. Anytime you got a lay-up price on a player to win the MVP, they're a big favorite. So followed by Patrick Mahomes. Right now, you can get Mahomes at +$3 or 3-1. Aaron Rodgers, 10-1. Tom Brady, 12-1. And boy, last year's MVP, he's fallen by the wayside. I always say the NFL stands for not for long, because coaches, GMs, players, they don't last very long. They have one good year, one bad year. 30-1 on Lamar. Derrick Henry, you asked me about, 50-1. Who knows? You never know. Throw a $10 bill on Derrick Henry, because this guy gets hot. Tennessee gets hot. You never know what happens. But my guy right now, I guess, would have to be Tom Brady, and the way he's playing, it's just amazing. What a good year. He's just completely turned around the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, no question about it. Halfway through the season, there is only one undefeated team remaining, the Steelers. One winless team, the Jets. What are the odds they both stay that way, or one or the other stays that way?
You know, and the verbiage has changed. They had to put it up that the team will finish 16-0, because we don't know. In 2020, crazy things happen. If a couple of games are canceled in the NFL, they don't play the entire 16 games. So they like to calculate it out at that. So the Steelers to go 16-0, yes, would be 10-1 right now. If you don't think they'll go undefeated, you got to lay $20 to win $1. So obviously they don't think the Steelers will go undefeated. The Jets, 0-16. The no price -310. You'd have to put up $310 to win 100. If you think that, yes, that they will go 0-16, 100 wins you $250, and you get your 100 back, you get $350. So the no's the favorite. We expect the Jets to get a win. We expect the Steelers to have maybe more than one loss this year.
Yeah, the good teams are starting to separate themselves. Which teams are starting to get the most play to make it to Tampa for the Super Bowl?
Yeah, it's a trifecta right now. 3 teams have garnered all the attention. The reigning Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs, the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Tom Brady-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The one team I like, not getting a lot of attention right now, is the New Orleans Saints. And I still think Drew Brees has it in him to get him there. His best wide receiver, Michael Thomas, has been out most of the year. When he gets him back, hopefully this week, will be a completely different offense. And that defense is far better than what we thought. The Ravens right now, maybe some value because they outplayed Pittsburgh this last weekend. They lost, but they outplayed them. They're plus 850 right now to win the Super Bowl. I think there's some good value there. John Harbaugh's a great coach.
That'll do it for Week 9 of Big Game Bound. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to our guests, Jared Payton, Josh Reed, A.J. McCord, Ed Daniels, J.B. Buno, and Kenny White. For our producer, Spencer Wheelock, and our crew here in Grand Rapids, enjoy the big games. It starts tonight with 49ers Packers. See you again next week.